Perfect. Thank you very much, Lisa. I'll go ahead and I'll maximize this. Don't worry, guys, this is not a death by PowerPoint presentation. In fact, we have three. One of them is the title screen that you see right now. As Lisa mentioned, we're going to be talking about generating a manufacturing order from sales order entry. I'm going to focus on it a couple of different ways. So here's slide 2. It's our agenda. And slide 3 you'll get to see at the end. We're going to configure a manufacturing, or we're going to talk about configuring some of the manufacturing and inventory items so that we can actually generate a manufacturing order directly from a sales order. So really it's in kind of a make-to-order type environment. We're actually going to talk about just a normal item that we make and just happen to not have in stock. But we're also going to talk about configurable make items. We're going to make a watch. We're going to talk about entering, excuse me, we're going to talk about entering the actual sales order so that we can generate that that manufacturing order. We're going to process the manufacturing order. We're actually not going to get super into the ins and outs of manufacturing. That's like a whole other, well, series of presentations, I would imagine. So we're not going to cover the ins and outs of it, but we're going to quickly process the manufacturing order, mostly so that I can prove to you that what I'm telling you is not a lie. After that, we're going to go back, we're going to take a look at the invoice, and then we're going to have a specific time for questions or comments. However, with that said, I'm pretty informal, so if any of you have ever heard my sessions before, you know that I will generally say, go ahead, throw your questions into the chat, and I give Lisa full permission to interrupt me at any point in time if it seems relevant to do so. Okay, slide 3 is our demo. Sorry, I lied earlier. It's actually 4 slides that we're going to get through. So this is our 3rd slide. We're going to actually go and take a look at Dynamics GP. So I happen to be presenting Dynamics GP 2015 R2. I believe nothing I'm going to show you has changed within the past couple of versions. So if you're 2013 or higher, you should be able to do whatever I'm doing. Okay, so first I want to take a look at our bill of materials. So let's jump over to our manufacturing landing page here. We're going to pull out our cards and take a look at a bill of materials. I'm going to work pretty much exclusively with the watch for now, just to show you kind of some of the different things we have to set up. So the first thing we have to set up, the reason I want to show you the watch is because it is the most impacted by the configurator, which gives us our configuration options. So let's take a look at the BOM for the watch. Okay, the first BOM that we have to set up is the manufacturing BOM, and that is our standard BOM. So by default, when we set a selling price for our custom watch, by default, what does it include? Okay, so we're saying it includes a metal band, a battery, in fact I think it's one each, a display, analog face, and it's a men's style. So that's kind of our default custom watch. Okay, obviously you go through, you set up all of your BOM elements, where's it coming from, where are you issuing it to, all of those things have to be configured and ready to go. Okay, now for the item itself, within the item master, one thing that we do want to make sure we have is our price list completely set up with defaults. We do want our default selling unit of measure and our default price level, and you want to set up any of the price levels and units, selling units that are relevant for you. Okay, if you are a multi-currency environment, please do make sure that you have a price list for each of your currencies that you sell this item in. All right, so we'll skip back here. Okay, the other thing we have to make sure we have a default of is our default routing. So if we take a look at our watch's routing, okay, we've got a watch routing, and in this case, I laughed when I saw this. This is demo data, I didn't make this up, but we have one actual routing item, and that is make the watch. Okay, so obviously there's no painting or anything like that with a watch. If you have more than one stage within your manufacturing process, you're obviously going to have more than one sequence within your data. Now, if you are a company that manufactures, you've probably already had a couple days of training on all of those things. Okay. Now, one other thing that I do want to show you, if I go to my bill of materials navigation list over here, and I go down to my watch, you might notice I've got not only my manufacturing BOM, I've also got this super BOM right here. Okay, when it is a configurable item, what I need to do is make sure I have a super BOM that includes all of the things that it could possibly have. So if you take a look at this, we've got a leather band, a metal band, or a plastic band as possibilities. Okay, we've got an analog face or a digital face, and it can be a man or a woman's watch. So these are all items that we're going to be able to configure. We're going to take a look at configuration in just a couple seconds. Okay, but this super BOM has to exist in order for us to be able to use the sales configurator when we get there. Okay, and that'll make more sense probably in about, I'm going to call it 7 minutes. That's approximately when it'll make sense. Okay. So let's talk about the actual sales configurator and how we set up the configuration, okay, and a couple of the things that are important. So within our cards, you can see here we've got this sales configurator option, and the first thing we need to do is set up all of our option categories. So let's talk about the band. If you guys remember, we had 3 possible bands. That's set up by setting the option category wristband, watch band, okay. In here we select each of our different options, okay. We choose, now because this is a single selection required, basically all we have to do is list our 3, and the user at runtime will, there's the developer in me talking, the person entering the sales order will actually select which of these are real, sorry, which of these are desired when they're actually entering that sales order, okay. Now a couple of cool things, if I go to my item maintenance for this guy and I look at his price list, okay, so what we're saying is the leather band is really worth $10 within our price. Okay, it's either adding or removing $10 within our price, and again, you'll kind of see how this works in a couple of minutes. Okay, if we take a look at the price list for our metal band, oops. Okay, you can see here it's worth $5. And the plastic band is actually flagged as our default, and I'm not going to make you go and look at the price list. I'll tell you now, I set it up at $0. So it's really worth, it's included in the price. I'm making finger quotes. You can't see it, but they're awesome. So I'm setting that up at $0. It doesn't really affect our selling price at all. Okay, so within each of our options, within each of our option groups, we're really doing the same thing. So if you take a look at our face style, for example, is it analog or digital? You're just choosing one or the other. There are ways where you can actually make it so that when you choose, when the user chooses one thing up here, we actually include or exclude other options, and that's going to be our multiple selections right here. I don't have a sample of that set up today, but if anybody wants that to happen, my email address is at the end, and I can show you that separately. Okay. That's our 4th slide that I told you. I guess I should have showed a spoiler alert before I said all that. So here's our options. Now once we've created all of our option groups, what we have to do is actually assign it to our item. So when we go ahead and choose our item number, let's go find our watch again. Okay, we're assigning a style, a band, and a face style. So these are the 3 different choices that our user has to make at runtime for our when they're placing the order. Okay. So we did talk about the price list for the different items. I do also want to talk about promotions. Okay, so within our option groups, we can actually have various promotions. So let me select our, what did I do it for? Oh, I did it for the face style. Okay. Now let's assume that we have, we really want to get rid of our analog faces. Usually they add some money to the price, but we really want to get them out of our system. So I'm going to set up a promo. I called this promo Get It Out, as in get it out of our warehouse. I didn't realize how that sounded until I just said it out loud. We have when does the promo run from, so the start date and the end date. Yes, everything's in 2017. Thank you, Fabricam, for living in the future. I'm going to give it a percentage discount of 10%. Now, if you guys remember, we talked about the price list. That 10% actually applies to the component itself. So if they select face analog, we're going to take 10% off of the price of the face analog. And you'll see that working in a few minutes. Okay, so at that point we've really set up our configurator. We've got our promotions, we've got all of our options available, our bombs. Now if this was just a standard item that we normally just make to order and it really has no configurations, you could have stopped way back when this whole thing started with just having a bill of materials and a routing. Okay, once you've got those two things, you can actually process a manufacturing BOM from sales order entry. Okay, so just to prove that that's true, let's go actually go process the sales order. Okay, so from my sales transaction entry screen, I'm going to go ahead and enter an order. Hopefully I still have stock. I was practicing with this earlier. All right, my customer ID that I'm going to choose is Atmore Retirement Home. No, I don't want to add a customer. I want to select that customer. So my assumption here is retired people really like watches, so when they come into the Atmore Retirement Center, we give them a new watch. We're going to create a custom watch. Okay, we're just going to tab through everything else. Okay, now let's add a watch. We're going to buy one because Frank is just moving into the retirement home and we're going to make Frank a watch. Okay. Now when I tab off, I don't have any stock for this item. I want to make sure that I back order the item. Okay. Having the line in back order is actually a requirement before we can generate the manufacturing order. So I'm going to go ahead and say back order the balance. Our standard price for this item is $175. Those are US dollars if I happen to have any Canadians on the call. So that's more like $250. They're really nice watches. Okay, once I tab off of this line, what's going to happen is my manufacturing series sales item detail window is going to pop open, and this is where I start to specify when do I need to make it, when do I have to ship it. So we're going to assume that Frank, the retiree, is moving in on the 14th. Okay, or sorry, it's moving in on the 21st. In order to ship it to him by the 21st, we need to get it out on the 14th. Otherwise, we have to charge an arm and a leg. So I'm going to say the requested ship date is the 14th. When I tab off, it'll say, do you want me to reset the due date? Of course I do. I want it to be due before it ships. Okay. The customer promise date, we just said we want to have it to Frank by the 21st. So we're going to go ahead and set that as our promise date. And if they have their own item number, so I'm going to call it Frank's watch. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and click on the configurator button right here because now I'm going to start setting the options for Frank's watch. Okay, so we'll call this guy Frank. Now, if you have kind of a bunch of standard configurations, you can actually save those configuration bombs with their names, you know, maybe men's watch analog, women's watch digital, whatever those are. In this case, I want to make it fairly custom. There is a setting within manufacturing that says once I'm done with the configuration bomb, delete it or save it. Okay, so if I have a bunch of these where every time someone calls, it might be blue, it might be pink, it might be digital, it might be analog, it just really depends on the person, and I don't want to set up every permutation of the item, then I'm just going to make sure that manufacturing deletes those configuration bombs, just so I don't clutter up my system. But for now, we'll call it Frank's watch. Okay, now this is telling me I have a promotion out there for the analog face. Do I want to apply it to this? I like Frank, I like the retirement home, so I'll go, yeah, enable all of the discounts if they're available. Okay, so here we go. The first thing we have to decide on when we're talking about Frank's watch is the style. Frank is a man, so we're going to choose the men's style. Okay, and notice over here the item price of it doesn't do anything to the price. When I select men's or women's, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect our price. That is not an option that changes the value of the watch. Okay, now let's look at band. You can see it defaulted to our plastic watch band, and that changes our price by $0. But what happens, Frank really likes leather. You know, plastic makes his wrist sweat, so he wants a leather watch. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select leather. Notice what happened to my price, $185. Okay, so it went up by the item's price from the price list, which I showed you earlier. Okay, if you happen to be watching this on the recorded webinar, rewind it, it's true, it's there. Okay, so we'll click on Save. Whoops, I didn't mean to click on Save. So this, I meant to do that. Basically, if I configure something and I accidentally click on Save, what I can do is go to my additional, and here's my manufacturing sales item detail, where I can go back to my configurator and I can change it. Enable all, because what I really wanted to show you was the face style. So notice here, the face digital is normally, it's worth $25 within the price. The face analog is normally worth $40 within the price, but there's a promo available right here. See that checkbox? And if I click on promo, oh, that one, if I select it and click on promo, it'll tell me that this promo is 10% off of the price. I could have done a fixed amount too. It could have been like $30 off or something like that. Okay, so with that promo in place, take a look at our price now. What's happened is the price would have gone down by $25, up by $40, and now we have a unit promotion of $4. So our end price is $196. I do have the ability to say, Frank, I really like you. I'm going to knock an additional $20 off of this just because you're a nice guy. So your watch is only $1 more than it would have been, and you get your leather wristband. Okay, so these are some of the different options you have within your configuration. Okay, once I go ahead and save that, it's going to create for us a manufacturing order. Now what I also want to do, just to show you how a normal item would work where it doesn't have configurations, I'm going to also sell them a green phone, because everyone knows when you buy a leather wristbanded watch you want a green phone to go with it. Just makes sense. So once I tab off of this line, I'm going to get that same box. Okay. You know what I didn't do? I didn't back order the item. So when I click on Generate MO, it's going to tell me I didn't back order the item. This is going to look really great on the recording. I promise I know what I'm doing. All right. Once I back ordered the item, now I can go back to that sales item detail window. And I can set some dates. Again, let's get him his phone by next Friday. Might as well come with his watch, which means we're going to have to ship it on the 14th. Yep, we're good with changing the promise date. Now I can generate my MO. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and save that sales order, because for now I'm done. Frank's order is placed. I can print him whatever documentation I have to print him. I can send it over to him. Life is good. Now, down on the manufacturing floor, we have to look at our transactions. Okay, so first of all, if we take a look at our just standard manufacturing order entry, okay, we have a couple of new manufacturing orders. We have one for a watch, MO10, and one for a green phone, which is MO11. So let's take a look at MO10 first. Okay, first of all, it came in with an MO status of open. If you guys work in manufacturing at all, you know we have to release this before we can actually start making the item. Okay, and we know that the only step within our routing for the green phone is to actually make the watch, which I still find funny. Okay, now normally our manufacturing scheduler is not going to go into each individual MO entry. What they're going to do is they're going to come into Edit MO Status, and we're going to start to release. So we're going to change a bunch of stuff to release. Let's take a look at redisplay. Okay, now here's 10 and 11 right here. I happen to know they're new. I happen to know that I was screwing around and created 1, 2, and 6 by accident. So we're going to ignore those ones. But what we are going to do is release 10 and 11 because we're ready to make them. We have to make them by next Friday. Okay, so let's go ahead and process that. And now they're released. Okay, now I'm going to take the super shortcut. What I'm going to do is do a component transaction entry, and I'm actually going to select both of those MOs and pick everything for them. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh that. So now we've got all of the items we need for making 10 and 11. Okay, I'm going to mark all, except notice right here, this guy, he's serialized, so I have to check on the box separately and select which specific serial number I'm going to assign to this green phone. This green phone is going to use 006. Okay, so now I've issued all of the materials I need into making Frank's phone. I'm making Frank's watch. I'm going to send it out throughout the workflow. They're going to actually do all this stuff. Let me add this to the pick document, and I'm going to go ahead and post it. Now what this is doing, just so everybody knows, is it's depleting my raw material, self-prints everything to screen, just so you know I'm not lying. And this one prints a lot of reports. I would normally turn these off. Okay, so here we go. We're depleting all of our inventory. Here's our leather wristband, our watch battery, our analog face, and our men's style custom watch, all being pulled out of inventory. Okay, here's our journal entries that go along with those. Okay, all of our credits to raw materials, all of our debits to WIP, and if you go down, this is all the debits and credits to do with making the phone. Okay, there's no cost variances here, and we're good. Okay, so we have issued everything into WIP. All of our inventory is currently sitting in WIP. Our assumption is somebody's putting it together. Okay, at the day, we're going to pretend today's the 14th. What we're going to do is receive our MO. Okay, so first let's receive the watch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Now notice here it's back flushing a display, but I issued everything else into WIP. So I issued my leather band, my battery, my analog face, and my style. I put them all together, put them all into WIP. Somebody actually manufactured them into items, so they're already there. But this backflush is, now I have to put the watch in a case so that I can actually send it to Frank. And that's standard, so within our BOM we have that set to backflush. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and post this. Again, it's going to generate a whack of stuff, and basically what it's going to do is deplete WIP and increase our finished stock inventory. Okay, so here is our case coming out of inventory, the backflushed item. Remember, everything else already came out of inventory and went into WIP. Here is our transaction for that, so they're moving that actual case into WIP. Okay, again, no variances. And now we have the action moving it out of WIP and moving it into finished goods. And again, a whack of reports. So here we have our custom watch moving into inventory. Here's our journal entry associated with the watch, taking it out of WIP, putting it into finished goods. No cost variance because it's a perfect world and there is no variance. Now notice here what it's doing. It's telling us that it is updating our sales order. So this particular manufacturing order, MO10, was associated with order 2240. Okay, so it's actually updating. If it was a serialized item and we had put a serial number for the watch, we would actually associate that serial number to the sales order as well. It's basically completing that sales order line for us. Okay, now I'm not going to make you watch me go and make a green phone. It works very much the same way. Okay, plus we're down to just a few minutes in our webinar, and gosh, I feel like I've gone fast. So let's go back to our sales order. We've got sales transaction entry. We're going to pull up our order from earlier. Okay, and normally I've got some kind of workflow that my user's actually working from a list of what got fulfilled today. Today I happen to know what got fulfilled, so we're going to go there. Here's 2240. It told me that earlier. Notice my watch is still on here. And if I come in, my quantity to invoice has been filled into 1, and my back order has been depleted. So now I know it's ready to actually go. Just so that you know, I didn't make it up. Since we didn't make the phone, it's still sitting on back order. Now we have to make a decision. Are we going to send Frank the watch and hold back on the phone, or are we going to wait for the phone to get made and ship it to Frank? And that's a whole other distribution discussion. What I can do now, if I transfer it to an invoice, go ahead and transfer. We'll print that to screen. It'll tell me everything's good. So I created 2 documents. One's a back order, one's an invoice. Okay, it's going to open up my back order by default. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And if I take a look at my invoices, here is my watch. So I can send Frank that watch. Notice our unit price was $200 because based on the configurator, it was supposed to be $200. If you'll recall, I really liked Frank, so I gave him a discount on it. So here's our markdown of $24 that we typed in manually. So what we just did, we took an order for a custom watch. We took an order for a green phone, which is not custom. We pushed them both through to our manufacturing. Our shop floor guys picked up both of those manufacturing orders, put them through the appropriate routings, made the watch. They haven't made the phone yet. Maybe they're waiting on something. They informed us that the watch was made simply by posting the transaction they have to post anyway. The sales order was updated, and we were able to invoice for the watch. Okay, so that is literally what the title said. We just generated a manufacturing order from sales order entry. We went a little bit beyond that, but now it's time for slide 4, and we're open for questions.
All right, thank you, Rod. Wonderful. You made that in record time. I appreciate it, and I really like the discount because you like Frank. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead and type them into the questions queue, or you can raise your hand and I can take you off mute if you've got something you don't want to type. So at this time, the field is open for questions. As well, you can chat the questions to us in the chat area of the GoToWebinar toolbar as well. I'm not seeing any questions coming in, and I'm not seeing any hands being raised.
Well, that means I must have done a bang-up job then.
You covered everything, and they're anxiously awaiting the recording so that they can go back through it if they need to, it sounds like.
Yeah, we did cover an awful lot. So if any of it was missed, obviously I'd throw my email address, my cell phone on here. I will tell you the cell is easy to reach me at than the 844 number, but do feel free to reach out if anything isn't clear. And I mean, like you said, the video is recorded.
Absolutely. Well, with that,